Crazy crashes, mad dashes, terrible Teslas, and bad BMWs. Get ready for all this and more on
Wham, Bam, Dashcam!
Dave was on his way to visit a friend on a beautiful Friday morning. When a white SUV pulled out in front of him, it blocked his view of a gray sedan that also turned in front of him. With no time to react, Dave collided with the rear door of the gray Honda Accord. Police responded to the scene and cited the Honda driver. Both vehicles were undrivable and had to be towed away. Thankfully, nobody was injured, and the Honda driver admitted fault and apologized. Dave's insurance claim is still being processed, but sadly, his Volkswagen Passat was totaled. Dave told us his girls are big fans of both Wham Bam Dashcam and Wham Bam Tesla Cam. So shout out to Alice and Olivia. Samantha noticed a Nissan driver who decided to overtake a semi-truck with disastrous results. Who do you think didn't see who in this situation? Samantha made a U-turn to return to the scene and assess the situation, but the trucker had already stopped. Samantha decided to continue after deciding the semi likely had a dash cam of its own. She wanted to thank her husband Andrew for installing a dash cam in her Hyundai Tucson, and she told us she loves him. Aww. When this submitter pulled up to a complicated four-way stop, an impatient Honda driver behind him honked before trying to go around him in the turn lane. When our submitter ruined their plans by proceeding safely through the intersection, albeit not on the Honda driver's preferred schedule, they got offended and decided they needed some payback. After speeding past her submitter on the right, the Civic driver nearly clipped his Mercedes as he cut all the way across to get to the left turn lane. Thankfully, no collision occurred. Jared was taking his girlfriend to work when traffic suddenly slowed down. He'd left himself plenty of room to slow down, but the driver behind him hadn't. Watch what happened when he suddenly changed lanes. The driver of the Hyundai didn't realize a semi was driving in the neighboring lane and clipped the front of it, sending them into a spin. Thankfully, they managed to regain control and pull over to the shoulder. Jared continued so his girlfriend Selena wouldn't be late for work, but he sent along a shout out for her after telling her for months that it would only be a matter of time before he had a video to send us. While sitting at a red light just outside his workplace, Joe's rear dash cam captured a driver coming up behind him hit a piece of road debris that sent it flying. We're not sure, but it looks like that's a manhole cover that somehow opened and then got left in the road. Thankfully, no other vehicles were involved. When Joe saw the driver collecting pieces of his car, he continued on. Victoria watched a gray Honda turn onto the road ahead of her before cutting all the way across to the left turn lane. Thankfully, Victoria was able to slow down in time to avoid rear-ending the Honda Civic. She's grateful that she has good brakes and was able to avoid a collision. At an intersection notorious for people pushing yellow lights to their limits, Sean watched the driver of a red Jeep turn in front of a white SUV that didn't slow down for the light. Sean couldn't stop to help as he was on his way back to work after lunch. He did send a copy of his dashcam footage to the police, but he doesn't know if they used it in their collision investigation. Sean sent along this advice: never assume drivers will stop for yellow lights, or even red ones. It's better to err on the side of caution. While Sydney was taking his grandmother for a ride to a beauty salon, they heard a loud bang as an older car passed them on the right. The hood of an older Ford Focus had opened, obstructing the view of the driver. Sydney made a U-turn to check on the driver, but he told us the driver was quite calm, almost as though this sort of thing happens all the time. The driver then continued along, apparently satisfied to use the small gap below the hood to see where he was driving. As far as Sydney knows, no collisions occurred and nobody was injured. Jeffrey watched someone exiting a highway make a right on red before traffic was clear and collide with a black Toyota hatchback. Jeffrey told us he quickly assessed that nobody was injured and that the airbags had not deployed in either vehicle. He continued on his way to work, but later called the police to offer them his dashcam footage. A routine morning, dropping off his kids at summer camp, nearly resulted in a collision. When a van stopped ahead of Alex, he checked the lane next to him before merging over to go around the van. He didn't know at the time where the Lincoln sedan had come from, but he was thankful for his Leaf's instant torque that saved him from being rear-ended. Reviewing his dashcam footage reveals that the Lincoln driver made an illegal lane change in an intersection. Alex wanted to shout out his son Ezra and wife Delilah, and he thanked us for putting out great content every week. GB was waiting in an intersection when the light turned green. As GB began to accelerate, the driver of a Dodge Challenger cut across his lane to reach a highway entrance, forcing GB to slam on the brakes. The driver of the Buick behind GB wasn't expecting this and rear-ended GB's Ford Escape. Both of them pulled over and exchanged insurance information. GB chose not to make an insurance claim after being unable to find any damage aside from minor paint scuffs. This submitter spotted this week's Tesla behaving badly, who experienced some instant justice after rolling through not one, but two stop signs.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
Our submitter kept driving after the hidden police officer pulled over the Tesla driver. He said, "Always come to a complete stop at a stop sign. You never know who's watching." This submitter was driving along in snowy Montreal when he watched the driver of a car turn in front of a city bus as they both made their way down a road with a newly opened express lane. Our submitter said the bus was in the new express lane, so maybe the car driver didn't realize there was a lane for him to check before turning. Either way, he doesn't seem to have been paying attention. Evan was headed to KFC for his lunch break when the driver of a Chevy SUV almost backed into his Ford Escape.
Whoa, dude! What the is your problem?
Thankfully, the other driver heard Evan honking and stopped short of running into him. Evan continued and was able to order his food, but he was very upset after nearly having his upcoming vacation plans ruined. Nigel was on his way to work when he stopped to wait for an opening in traffic. He politely allowed an oncoming driver to turn first, but they failed to check for traffic and turned in front of another car. Thankfully, the collision wasn't severe and the damage was minor, so Nigel continued on his way to work. Christopher and his father had parked at a gas station when they heard a siren approaching, uncertain where it was coming from. Seconds later, a police car went flying through the intersection. Traffic was just entering the intersection after the light changed when the cop car went speeding through. Keep in mind, the speed limit here is only 30 miles per hour. Stunned, they watched to see if any more police cars would follow, but none did. They still don't know what was going on or why the cop was moving so fast. Gregory was approaching an intersection with plans to make a protected left turn. Suddenly, a BMW pulled out of a dealership parking lot and collided with the rear bumper cover of his Honda Civic before driving away.
Did he hit me?
Gregory paused before making a U-turn and returning to the dealership to see if they had any security cam footage, but sadly, they didn't. He took his Civic to a body shop and is waiting to see if there is any structural damage. Jared's wife Bryn merged right as her lane was ending soon when she noticed a red convertible Mustang pull out in front of a work truck and the driver had to slam on the brakes to avoid a collision. The driver of the work truck did not appreciate this move and tried to use a turn lane to pass the Mustang illegally. When that failed, they slowed down at the next light to yell at the Mustang driver before driving off. Jason was headed home after work when another driver abruptly changed lanes to get around traffic and collided with another vehicle in the neighboring lane. Both drivers appeared unhurt and the damage seemed minimal, so Jason kept going on his way to work. Emma was taking her dad to the airport when they spotted a Tesla driving in traffic. Her dad was on the phone with someone else, and he promptly educated them about the Wham Bam channels.
Hey look, a Tesla. Wham Bam, thank you, man.
Nice.
We've been watching the YouTube videos of all the Tesla Dashcams called Wham Bam Tesla Cam. And the guy that narrates it's kind of funny. I like it.
Emma said she and her parents enjoy watching our videos together, and her dad likes our jokes. Which makes sense. Be sure to check out Wham Bam Security Cam too, and send us your security camera footage.
Wham, bam, we got a Patreon, man. Please support the show.